But I do think it's important to address the fact that when we're organizing things into part-whole systems, often those become categories sometimes, or groupings.
Yes.
And one of our weaknesses is that we don't tend to question how things are organized into groupings or categories.
Yeah, and that's actually, as you pointed out, the term categories, which is widely used in cognitive science and psychology, and is one of my pet peeves. I get on my soapbox, and in part because part whole, this interplay between part whole is such an important idea to understand. It's one of the most profound ideas. And it's one of the most profound ideas that the mind is doing all the time and that nature is doing all the time. The problem is so there's part-whole structure, right? Parts are contained by wholes, right? And the way that part-wholes are configured, it can be quite fluid in real life. It can be quite adaptive. It's the old saying, you never step into the same river twice, right? So when we create groupings, so I tend to call things groupings because groupings are a little less, we can group stuff and we can ungroup stuff.
Right.
But a category is something that kind of we group it and then we think that it's just static and it stays that way.
Right.
And we also miss the idea that any group of objects is grouped based on a perspective, and the perspective's kind of hidden. Right? And our research actually shows these interdependencies between the systems pattern and the perspective pattern, for example, or the systems pattern and the relationship pattern. There's dependencies on these things. And so when we talk in terms of categories, I think we get into the danger zone of one, that these things are permanent and static. They're not.
Right.
They're highly fluid and dynamic.
Yes.
And two, that we ignore that a huge part of that category being static or permanent is that you've already biased the hidden perspective that makes it so.
Yes, that's
right.
That's right.
So I like to talk about things more in the what I perceive as more fluid terms, in terms of groups. Things group, things ungroup.
Yeah.
You can watch a group of birds and they'll group, and then all of a sudden they'll ungroup and they'll group into different groups. You can watch nature. Things are constantly grouping. Watch a party. People are grouping and then ungrouping and grouping into a different set of groups.
Meaning there's several ways to organize and connect things into groupings.
Absolutely.
It's not only one way.
Yes.
And we do, though, because of categories and hierarchies and all kinds of things, we tend to believe that once things are grouped, that's the only way they can be grouped. Like species, for example, things like that.
Yeah.
But what we're learning from research is there's more fluidity and possibility in the way you can actually think about different groups of things, right?
There's much more dynamicism and fluidity in the way we group things. And by the way, if you're wondering, like, maybe that feels too esoteric or theoretical, like, why does this matter? Well, you might group something one way, say the parts of a particular piece of product or machinery, and your next big innovation isn't actually inventing something new.
Right.
It's just grouping something different.
Yeah.
Your next big innovation, your next big discovery could literally be not that you're discovering or innovating something totally new, right? It's simply that you're organizing what you have differently.
Slightly differently.
Yeah. So the way we organize things can dramatically change the way they show up in the world.
That's right. That's
right. And so paying attention to part-whole organization and the systems that result as a result of that part-whole organization is one of four of the most important cognitive or thinking skills that there are.